Let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. Welcome everybody to my YouTube channel where we watch react videos and play games and learn about history. And today we're watching Oversimplified World War II Part 1. I am watching this video because I want to learn more about World War II because I'm reading a book about it. We haven't watched Oversimplified in a while. This was the best general overview I could find. I think there's a few parts of it, so we'll watch all the parts today, okay? Movie time!
Video was made possible by Skillshare. Churchill was a man with many talents. He was
It's Churchill. Churchill is, watch me get people mad at me in the first 1 second of the video. Wasn't Churchill known for being like a pacifist or something? No? Oh. That was Chamberlain. Oh, wrong guy. They both start with C? That was Chamberlain. Okay, thank you for correcting me. I got it mixed up. Okay, my bad. My bad. Starting off great. Okay.
an artist, a butterfly enthusiast, and he had an unpublished manuscript about aliens. Clearly, he was a man.
Wait, did he actually write a book about aliens? That's crazy. What the? Okay. Okay. That's interesting lore.
With an insatiable thirst for knowledge. Maybe he could have loaded up his computer and logged onto Skillshare, an online learning community with more than 19,000 classes in design, business, technology, and more. Perhaps he was considering a side career in fashion,
a chronic drunk,
but didn't know where to start. On Skillshare, he would find courses in fashion design and garment construction. Or if he wanted to learn app design, improve his photography, or just how to make a really good quesadilla, he would have found courses for all of these and more on Skillshare. Skillshare gives you access to high-quality classes taught by genuine experts working in their field. I work heavily with animation, and I was genuinely blown away by the number of really useful courses available to me. Like this class full of tips and tricks for creating vector art, or this one for creating character walk cycles. For an annual subscription, Skillshare is under $10 a month. And if you'd like to try it out first, then I've got a deal just for Oversimplified viewers. The first 1,000 people to use this link, which can be found in the description, will get their first 2 months of Skillshare for just 99 cents. Be sure to try it out using the link in the description and learn something new today. Now, without further ado.
Okay, the video now.
It's 1902. A young man by the name of Benito Mussolini moves from Italy to Switzerland to avoid military service. He gets big into...
What? I didn't know that Mussolini moved to avoid military service. That's kind of ironic, isn't it?
Socialism, working for trade unions, writing for socialist newspapers, advocating a violent overthrow of European monarchies, the whole shebang. This gets him in a bit of trouble with the Swiss police, so he gets arrested, sent back to Italy, set free, returns to Switzerland, is arrested again.
Wait, you get arrested, you can just leave, and then you're not under, and then you just come back? Okay.
Goes back to Italy again, completes his military service after previously avoiding it, and then after a brief stint as an elementary school teacher, he finally returns to work as an avid socialist.
Jesus Christ. Imagine Mussolini as your elementary school teacher. What the? Extradition, he was not a Swiss citizen. Oh, it's like fleeing the country. They can't like enforce their law upon you in another country?
Socialist. His speeches and journalistic abilities made him famous among Italian socialists. He was anti-war, so when Italy colonized Libya in 1910, he rioted and got arrested. Then World War I came along, and once again he protested Italy's involvement. But then he thought, wait a minute, this war could bring about the social climate needed to overthrow European monarchies and bring about the socialist revolution everywhere. And suddenly he was pro-war, but his...
What? How does his brain work? What? So he was socialist, and so he was like a protester, kind of, right? And then he was always just out for himself, and then people liked his like protest stuff, I guess. And then all of a sudden he was like, wait, if we have a war, we can basically break down everything and do what I want to do. So then he became pro-war? He was actually kicked out of that newspaper because he was too radical? That's a very interesting timeline. Okay.
Fellow socialists didn't like his new pro-war stance, so they kicked him out of the party. So then he said, you know what? I'm done with socialism. We need something new, not based on class divisions tearing us apart, but based on unity through nationality. We'll conquer the Mediterranean and reunite all Italian peoples just like the days of the Roman Empire. I'll call it fascismo, and it will...
Wait, what? I did not know Mussolini's origin story, I'm not gonna lie. He was socialist, and then he thought to bring socialism, he would become fascist? Isn't that the opposite of socialism? What? And now you know the origins of fascism. I didn't know that came from Mussolini. Yeah, he went from one extreme to the next. I want socialism, so I'm gonna forcibly unite everybody into fascism. That's crazy.
Guide the Italian nation to greatness. That's all well and good, Mr. Mussolini, but what kind of haircut am I giving you? Let's go with... bold.
Oh. It's a choice. World War II. Okay, so
Italy had been on the winner's
start.
side in World War I, and they hoped they were going to get a lot out of it, but in the end, they only got a little, and they felt cheated. On top of that, a bad economy and weak governments meant that the Italian people were a little unhappy. So when Mussolini came along and said that he could fix everything, his fascist movement gained a lot of support. In 1922, he went to the king and said, "Make me prime minister, or I'll make me prime minister." And the king said, "You and what army?" "This army." Fair enough.
Oh.
Then he went about
He amassed his own army? I think he just decided to ditch socialism. It's more like he gave up on socialism and he went further and further into fascism. As one does, just amasses his own army. Okay. So this is just, would this be considered like a rebellion since they're going after the king? Or are they going after the king, just want to work with the king? A coup. A coup.
Establishing a dictatorship with himself at its center. Europe had its first fascist dictator. Next up, Germany. Germany had been on the loser's side, and they got absolutely wrecked by the Treaty of Versailles. They lost territory, had to demilitarize the Rhineland, had to reduce their army to just 100...
The Treaty of Versailles was, I understand why they made it so strict, like, harsh, but it was maybe a little too harsh, maybe?
1,000 men, couldn't have an air force, had to pay the Allies a huge amount of money that it didn't have, and a new rule was established that every Englishman withheld the right to walk into the center of Berlin, pick out any German they wanted, and spank the hell out of them. I made that last one up, but it helps you understand how all of this felt to Germans. On top of that, a bad economy and weak governments meant that when a small angry man with a silly mustache came along and said that he could fix everything, the German people loved it. Hitler had been a soldier during World War I, and he was crazy patriotic, and nobody was madder than him about Germany's humiliation. He helped start a new political party, and in 1923 attempted a march on Munich with his boys.
There's a lot of themes of just starting my own army and doing things. So far. It was the method of hold them down so hard they can't get strong enough to be a problem again. Yeah, I get that. I get that the Treaty of Versailles was basically to cripple them so much that they couldn't do anything again, right? But I don't know. It almost seems like it was so harsh that it just made them more angry and more motivated and more determined to get back at them, though. I wonder if it was like less harsh, if like they would have reacted as strongly. I mean, they might have anyways. So I don't know. Suppression builds resentment. Yeah. We saw this with Roman Carthage, didn't we? The same kind of thing.
And then he got arrested. But his popularity grew and grew, and in 1933, the president made him chancellor. He believed he was Germany's great destined savior, and he went full megalomaniac, establishing a dictatorship with himself at its center. Europe had fascist dictator number 2. Hitler and Mussolini had a lot of the same ideas, but more importantly...
Oh, wait, I wanted to read that. Okay, what's the difference here? Oh, they're all the same, except National Socialism is extremely racist, except for quite racist. Totalitarian violence, militarism, totalitarianism, radical nationalism, anti-democratic, anti-socialist. That's so ironic, considering Mussolini was socialist to start. Versailles was even a mild variant. French wanted to split Germany. Oh, wow, okay.
Same ideas, but more importantly, they had the same enemies, and they started to get along. Anyone else want to be friends? Franco? No? You good? I do. Who's that? It's Japan, and they've taken over northern China.
I need to watch a documentary about Japan during World War II, I think. Because I still don't really understand why Japan joined, other than they wanted to. I think I need to watch like an in-depth documentary about it, because I don't really understand Japan's part in that. Same enemy. I know they joined basically because like they wanted to. They just wanted to conquer shit. Yeah, like they just thought this was a good chance to just go and take stuff because they would have allies in it. It just seems so weird because it seemed like so far removed from it. I'm sure he's going to explain it. Well, I mean, Oversimplified explains things very briefly. That's why I think I need to watch like a whole documentary on it. Because I know the very like broad reason they joined, but like I'm sure there's a lot of little things that added up to it. They had been allied with Germany for a while and had similar enemies.
Let's rewind a bit. Japan had isolated itself from the rest of the world for over 200 years until the Americans showed up and said, "You're going to trade with us and you're going to like it." Then the Western powers imposed a bunch of unequal treaties, meaning Japan's economy was bust. They also had no natural resources, so they decided to go get some. They went to war with China to gain a sphere of influence over Korea, and they took a bunch of China's stuff. But then the West said, "Hey, cut that out." And since Japan couldn't take on the West, they said, "Okay, I guess we'll just go home." Wait a minute, what are you doing? Taking advantage of a weakened China and setting up spheres of influence. But I was the one who weakened them. We know. and you guys didn't let me have anything. We know. That seems unfair. We don't think so. Okay, see ya. So Japan thought, screw this, and went to war with Russia, and stunned everyone by actually winning. Then they fully annexed...
Oh, wait, they won against Russia? Oh, I know they went into China. I didn't know they battled against Russia and won.
Korea, but they didn't stop there. In World War I, they took Germany's colonies and islands in Asia. And then in an incident that was maybe staged by the Japanese army, a bomb...
Maybe staged by the Japanese army.
Blew up a Japanese train in Manchuria, giving them an excuse to launch an invasion and take over. So here's the situation. Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, and Japan all believe they're racially superior, all feel hostility towards the Allies, and all want to militarize and take over more stuff. And so they did. Let's start with Germany. Hitler hated the Treaty of Versailles, and now he was ready to begin undoing it.
Yeah, I know that was a very general overview of why Japan joined invading China for resources, I guess. But if anyone has any good recommendations on documentaries that go in depth into it, I would like to watch one, because I feel like there's a lot I don't know about that.
Complete violation of the treaty. The first Luftwaffe squadrons were set up, conscription was introduced, and he pimped up his army. The Allies did nothing. Then Hitler sent his army back into the demilitarized Rhineland, giving orders to immediately retreat if the Allies showed up. The Allies did nothing. With his military re-strengthened, he could now move on to step 2. He wanted to
Why did the Allies not do much for a long time? Like, didn't they just kind of let him do his thing for a while? It's kind of surprising considering World War I was not that old.
Rapidly increase the Aryan population, and to do so, he needed Lebensraum, or in other words, he would have to take over the world. But for now, a good portion of Europe would do, and he began eyeing up his neighbors. The Allies finally started to get worried, so they implemented a fairly useless diplomatic strategy called appeasement, and it went a little something like this. Hitler would say, I want that thing, and the Allies would say, you can't have that thing. Okay, you can have that thing, but no more. I want that thing. And repeat. In 1938, Hitler's army marched into Austria and just took it with no...
That's Chamberlain? The appeasement guy was Chamberlain? The Allies did not want a repeat of the First World War. Okay, that's the pacifist guy I was thinking of. Not Churchill. My bad. Chamberlain. Okay.
No resistance. Boom. This is Germany now. Next, he demanded to be given the Sudetenland, an area of Czechoslovakia with many ethnic Germans. The Allies held a meeting with Hitler in Munich and said, look, we're going to give you what... Hang on. This meeting is about my territory. Shouldn't I come to the meeting too? Anyway, we're going to give you what you want. Really? Yeah. Just like that? Yep. What's the catch? Just sign this piece of paper promising you won't invade the rest of Czechoslovakia. Okay. Then Chamberlain returned home victorious, waving his signed piece of paper in the air, declaring crisis to be averted and the continuation of world peace. And we built a statue of Chamberlain in his honor, and every day on the 30th of September we celebrate Chamberlain Day. Hitler's invading the rest of Czechoslovakia. What? He's invading the rest of Czechoslovakia.
Oh, the paper didn't mean anything to him. Oh, so that was a lie. The paper did not stop him from invading, apparently. Oops.
Oh. You lied to me. What do you expect? I'm Hitler. Not to be outdone, Mussolini also wanted to get in on the action. He thought to himself, isn't there a not yet colonized nation somewhere which is so underdeveloped that the people would be defending themselves against our tanks with literal bows and arrows and wooden spears? Oh, there is? Fantastic. And so he took it. Italy also wanted to control the entrance to the Adriatic Sea, so they occupied Albania.
Just taking it to take it? Like what? Damn, like signing a peace treaty with Stim in total war. Hey, sometimes I don't read the contract of the peace treaty, okay?
Then, in another incident which was maybe staged by the Japanese, gunfire was exchanged by Japanese and Chinese troops at the Marco Polo Bridge, and the Japanese launched yet another invasion against China. They swept through Beijing and Shanghai, and then advanced through the Yangtze Valley to China's then capital, Nanking. It was here that saw the worst of Japan's shocking atrocities committed against the Chinese people.
I've read about that, I think. Yeah, we don't need to. In
Europe, Germany and Italy made their relationship status official by signing the Pact of Steel. Then, Hitler turned his eyes towards Poland and the hated Polish corridor, splitting Germany in two. At this point, the Allies really had to put their foot down, and they warned him that an invasion of Poland would mean war. Hitler had planned...
Don't you do it! Don't do it. I know this is just a very general overview and oversimplified, obviously, but it just seems so it's like you're talking to Stimpub. I mean, it just seemed like they let so much slide. They just watched him amass power for a while and lie and break treaties and things. It feels bad to watch it back now. Damn, there's so much just happened and they didn't do anything.
And to continue his advance eastward, but he didn't want to end up fighting a war on two fronts. So for now, he made an alliance with Stalin, saying, how about we both invade Poland and split it between the two of us, and I definitely won't not refrain from not betraying you sometime in the future. Sounds Good. This new alliance
sounds good.
stunned the West. On the 1st of September 1939, German troops entered Poland, and Britain and France declared war on Germany.
Okay.
The Poles fought hard, but they were no match for the two giants crashing down on them from either side. Then came a period known as the Phony War, where everyone just...
Oh my god, wait, I have to pause this, because I'm reading a book about the Phony War, and it's blowing my mind. It's called, I'm telling everyone about this book because it's so freaking good. I think it's called The Nightingale, and it's like from the civilian point of view of a person in France, in Paris, and I didn't realize that they thought they were fine the whole time. I thought they were fine the whole time. Everybody was like, oh, we're not gonna go to war. They're doing nothing. There's nothing to worry about. Like... They're not gonna take Paris. What are you crazy? Like, they're not doing nothing. We're fine here. We're fine here. Like, they're busy. And then, like, they just take Paris, like, immediately. And they're like, what the? How did this happen? They figured it'd be resolved diplomatically still. Yeah, they thought they were fine in Paris. They're like, there's no way they could get us. Like, how are they gonna get past the Maginot Line? Like, we're fine. It's just crazy to think. The whole time, everyone's telling you it's fine. And then, like, one day, your main city, your capital city is just invaded and taken over. Like, what? That's just nuts to read about. They'd never simply walk around it. Yeah. I don't know. Do you think the Maginot Line was a good idea? It seems like a good concept, but it wasn't really used, was it? Maybe it was used during the war. I don't know. But to prevent the war, it wasn't really used. Walking around it didn't work the first time, so they figured it'd work again. But then I understand that Belgium didn't want them to extend it because Belgium didn't want to be cut off from France, which would have been their ally, right? They're like, wait, you're putting up a wall and leaving us out? That's what, like, didn't they protest it? They didn't want it there because they didn't want to be blocked off. Belgium didn't want war. There was like politics involved for them not building it past Belgium though, because Belgium was like, hell no, you're not building a wall to block us off. I mean, I understand. If I was Belgium, I'd be like, please, no. Okay, sorry for the tangent, but it's relevant to my book.
Sort of sat around not doing much. The French had launched a small invasion into the Saarland, but they maintained mostly defensive positions, and after a while decided to just turn around and call it a day. Speaking of France, the French were still super proud of their victory in World War I, and they hadn't really moved on from it. They still used horses, they dispatched messages by motorbike instead of using radio. Orders from the commander-in-chief were usually pretty vague, and the troops were rarely inspected. They built a line of defenses along their German border, but didn't bother extending it all the way to the Channel, and they wouldn't launch artillery strikes against Germany out of fear of being retaliated against. In a war, they didn't want to...
Excuse me? Okay. Super offended at that, okay? Super offended, I guess.
attack the enemy. And at first the UK wasn't much better. Chamberlain still naively hoped that the war could be ended diplomatically. Instead of bombing raids, the RAF dropped propaganda leaflets over German cities, which one air marshal said likely did nothing but provide the continent with...
Wait, what? They just dropped... What? I didn't know that part. That's kind of strange. Okay, whose idea was that? Surely this'll stop them!
Toilet paper for the duration of the war. They also only sent 200,000 men to France, while the French had mobilized millions. Both Britain and France wanted to avoid a repeat of the First World War, and so they wanted to keep the war as far from home as possible. So they turned their eyes north, towards Norway. Neutral Sweden was exporting iron ore to Germany through neutral Norway, so the Allies asked them if they could please stop exporting iron ore to Germany, but this request was refused. Then, the Soviet Union attacked Finland, so the Allies said, how about we land troops in Norway and move them across Sweden to go help out your good pal Finland, and along the way maybe take control of all your iron fields. But Norway and Sweden still said no, so the UK...
And maybe on the way take control of all of your iron. You know, if we happen to walk past it, we'll just take some, you know, maybe.
Mined the waters around Norway to force any transport ships into international waters, and they also attacked a German tanker they found in the area. Hitler realized what the Allies were up to, and he quickly moved to secure his supply of iron ore. He launched an invasion through Denmark into Norway. The Allies rushed to land troops at key ports along the coast, but Germany had taken control of Norway's airfield, and their air superiority decided the fight. The Allies had to retreat. After this slightly embarrassing failure, Chamberlain resigned and was replaced with Winston Churchill, who had a slightly different approach to dealing with the Germans.
Wow. Seems that the German airplanes did a lot for them. That's a big factor so far. And like, I didn't know that France was so like, what would you say? I don't want to say unserious, but like not militarizing as they should have, maybe? I guess they just wanted to prevent the war, not prepare for it. They had the most advanced air force in the world. Disorganized, backwards. silly willies.
Hitler's overall strategy was similar to Germany's First World War strategy. Attack France, defeat France, knocking out the UK in the process, then turn on the Soviet Union and win the war. During the phony war, the Allies had given Hitler time to prepare his forces. Now, he was ready to attack. The Allies had wanted to place troops in Belgium, but Belgium had refused, and in a move that surprised pretty much no one, Hitler launched an invasion to get around France's defenses. The Allies charged into Belgium at full speed to meet the German invasion head-on, and it looked like a repeat of the First World War was coming. But this time, Hitler had a trick up his sleeve. Blitzkrieg. As the Germans advanced, they sent thousands of refugees westward, slowing down the Allies. Then, to the south, the French had left the Ardennes, an area full of hills and forests, pretty underdefended because they thought it was naturally impenetrable. Well, the Germans were about to penetrate it with everything they had. They smashed 50 Wehrmacht divisions through and encircled.
They went through a forest that the French didn't think they could go through, and then they just like basically walked through. They basically just walked around them. This is where you get Dunkirk. That's wild to think. They were just like, actually, we'll just go around you. We'll just bypass everything, go through this forest, and go around you. And now we're here. To be fair, forests are pretty harsh terrain to move through quickly. How did they... I mean, they must have been planning that for a while and trained for it, I guess, then. If everybody thought they couldn't go through the forest and then they went through the forest, that's kind of crazy. Also bypass the Maginot since most troops were trapped on the beaches? Huh. I wonder... That's a wild thing. It's a wild thing to just do. Like, it would have been so unexpected if no one thought they could get through there.
The Allied armies at lightning speed. The best of the Allied forces were now trapped. The Germans squeezed in from all sides, taking out France's best armies and nearly wiping out the British too. But they managed to make a desperate last-minute escape at Dunkirk, with British civilian ships even
Dunkirk was where they rescued people off the beaches. Yeah. I watched the movie about it. That was a good movie.
Taking the perilous journey to bring their young men home. With most of the French forces depleted, the Germans breezed through, taking Paris, and France fell. What the Germans couldn't do in World War I, Hitler had done just like that. Hitler hoped that with the fall of France, the UK would also lose hope and sue for peace. But quite annoyingly, it didn't, and he needed to secure the Western Front.
Because once he took Paris, didn't France divide into like occupied France, and like they had like they surrendered, so part of it was Nazi occupied and part of it was Vichy? Yeah. Still, my brain hurts. The book I'm reading is talking about France right now, and how when Paris was bombed, like everybody, all the civilians left and they just all walked out on foot, like taking whatever they could. And it's just like, it's very humbling and horrific to think about people, like thousands and thousands of people just walking, and there's no food and there's no water and there's nothing. You just walk until you can't walk anymore, and then you sleep outside, and then you just walk some more. Like, that's just crazy to think of a whole city walking out, basically. It's hard to imagine.
So he tried to force them into submission with mind games. The UK were now all alone, and Hitler wanted to emphasize that. First of all, just before France fell, Italy finally declared war on the Allies, making the UK's situation even worse. Next, instead of just occupying all of France, Hitler occupied the coastal areas for defense, but allowed France to continue its existence as a German puppet state. This way, it looked like the UK's old ally had decided to switch sides. Hitler also hoped that the UK wouldn't attack any of her old allies' navy bases or colonies in Africa, giving Hitler an extra line of defense to the south. But the UK made sure to respond to this by sailing down to France's navy base in Algeria and wrecking a bunch of ships. So have at it. Hitler then began laying down plans for an invasion of Great Britain. Before German troops could land on British soil, he would first need air and naval superiority across the Channel. Waves of German bombers came, while the completely outnumbered RAF worked bravely around the clock in an attempt to quell the German attacks. At first, the Luftwaffe targeted British ports and coastal facilities. Then it attacked RAF bases, crippling the RAF's ability to defend the nation. And it looked like Hitler's Great British invasion was coming. But then, Churchill ordered a small, pretty insignificant bombing raid over Berlin. It didn't do much damage, but Hitler was furious, and he immediately ordered the Luftwaffe to refocus its attacks on civilian targets in London. Children were sent off to the countryside away from their parents to avoid danger, and frequent trips to air raid shelters became a daily occurrence.
I heard about that. That's crazy. They had like this foster program where you could literally take your children and ship them out of London to live with random people in the countryside while they were being bombed. That's crazy. And like, what did people in London do? Like the civilians that stayed, they just do their normal jobs while being like bombed and stuff? That's like, what? Germany did the same thing with their kids later in the war. Wow. They just kept calm and carried on. Wow.
Currents, but British morale held firm. Smiling, knitting, lounging casually, these people have balls of steel. This refocusing on London also gave the RAF breathing space to reorganize, so Hitler kind of shot himself in the foot there. Just the foot for now. Finally, the Luftwaffe sent one massive all-out attack on London, and the RAF successfully repelled it, destroying many of the German aircraft and placing air superiority firmly in British hands. Hitler's invasion had to be postponed.
Okay, I have another tangent. I'm in Canada, and I've been to some aircraft museums in Canada. Aircraft museums? Yeah. And I didn't know that so many Canadian pilots were used in the British Air Force. It was like a big thing. We trained like a lot of pilots here and stuff for the British Air Force. It was really cool to learn about. I didn't know that. I've been to like they have like places where you can see like the training airplanes and stuff from the war. Canada and America both sent pilot volunteers. So yeah, we sent a lot of people to be pilots and trained a lot of pilots in Canada. It is cool. It's cool to read about and see the training planes, because I think the training planes are yellow. Are they? Yeah, I think they're yellow. So that you can tell the difference. Cool.
But the bombing of British cities continued for some time.
Oh, that's it? Oh, that's it. That was a short video, only 13 minutes. Canada also made a lot of Spitfires. Yeah, we made a lot. We manufactured a lot of airplanes for the RAF. I mean, the video. Yep, World War II's over. Wrap it up. All right, let's do part 2. Click here. Okay.
This video was...
I feel like I'm yapping more than usual. Sorry. I'm yapping more than usual. Sorry. Oversimplified's earlier videos were a lot shorter. Yeah, compared to like the newer ones, which are like 30 to 40 minutes long or longer. Okay, this is part 2 of the World War II by Oversimplified. Let's see.
It's made possible by Skillshare, an online learning community. Stick around until the end of the video to learn how you can get an exclusive deal just for Oversimplified viewers.
Part 2.
So what else is happening? Well, when I said Britain was all alone, that wasn't entirely true. Many Commonwealth nations and other allied colonies had joined the war in Britain.
Canada! Canada! We exist here. We exist!
Support. They would play a key role throughout the war, particularly in the African and Italian campaigns. On the Axis side, Germany, Italy, and Japan signed the defensive tripartite pact, bringing their military alliance even closer together. The Soviet Union's war against Finland should have been an easy victory, but it became a humiliating struggle, and their military ineptitude was put on full display. In the end, they did force the Finns to sue for peace. Then, they continued their honorable campaign of pushing around much smaller countries by annexing the Baltic states and part of northern Romania. France's colonies in equatorial Africa were like, heck no, we aren't going to join the Germans, and they all pledged their allegiance to free France, except for Gabon, which had to be taken by military force. The Allies also tried to capture the strategic port of Dakar, but that ended in failure. Mussolini had seen Hitler's successes, and he thought now it was Italy's time to shine, so he tried to take British Somaliland, and that went pretty well. Then he tried to take Egypt, and that went less well. Then he tried to take Greece, and that went really badly.
Okay, this is probably a dumb question, but all the stuff happening in Africa and stuff, like, people say it's for resources, but like, how do they get the resources back? Like, by ship? Or is it just like, why are they doing that? Didn't they have like U-boats to like sink a bunch of ships though? Shipping raw resources mostly. Oh, by plane, obviously. I didn't know, like, that just seems like so, I guess we still use ships today. It just seems so inefficient, but the whole infrastructure was designed to bring stuff back to the motherland. Oh, most of the world's trading is still done today by ship. Oh, yeah, I don't know much about that. It's interesting.
Churchill began referring to Italy as Europe's soft underbelly. He began favoring a military campaign from the south and started sending British troops to Greece. All of this had Hitler pretty concerned, and he moved to protect his southern flank. He had been getting friendly with Hungary and twisted their arm into signing the Tripartite Pact and joining the Axis powers. Romania was also eager to join for protection against the Soviet Union. The Tripartite Pact was designed to prevent any other countries from deciding to...
Italy had no idea Germany was going to declare war. What?
Join the Allies. Specifically, Britain's old ally, the pesky United States of America. When war first broke out, American public opinion was strongly against joining in. In 1940, there was an election. The Republican candidate said, "I will not send any young Americans to die in Europe." And sitting President Franklin D. Roosevelt said, "I will also not send any young Americans to die in Europe. Unless I have to, then I might." And Roosevelt won. Churchill asked him to join the war, but Roosevelt said, "No can do, Winston. But you know what? Here, have some weapons." America began supplying the Allies with food and munitions, but there was one problem. German U-boats were sinking thousands of Allied supply ships in the Atlantic, including American ones. If the Germans could
this is why America got involved, because the U-boats, right? Basically, they're like, hey, stop it.
Whenever Britain's supply line, the UK would starve. Throughout the war, the Allies had to
actually, they got involved because of Pearl Harbor, but like, That's part of it, leading up to part of it, right? Pearl Harbor was like the incident that was like, okay, now we have to. But I mean, like, they didn't like this.
Up with better technology to fight the U-boats. Improved radar, aircraft with longer range, better weaponry and convoy tactics. At one point, a man even called a meeting and said, "Pykrete. You take some wood, you take some ice, you put them together, you get pykrete." And then he pulled out a gun and shot some wood and it shattered. And then he shot some pykrete and the bullet ricocheted off it and hit someone else in the conference room.
Huh?
And then they tried to make a pykrete aircraft carrier, but that idea was scrapped because that's a really dumb idea. In the end, Alan Turing and his team of codebreakers cracked Germany's Enigma code, and the U-boats gradually became less and less of a threat. Back in Africa, Britain decided to push Italy out of Egypt. Hey, that was pretty easy, so they kept going. Hitler realized he was going to have to finally step in and do something. He went to Bulgaria and Yugoslavia and said, "Hey, I'm going to move troops through you to get to Greece, so either join us or, be invaded." Bulgaria opted to join them. Yugoslavia opted to be invaded. Then Greece finally fell to the joint German-Italian invasion. The British had moved troops from North Africa to fight in Greece, which helped Rommel and his tank divisions push the British back to Egypt. And they could have kept going, but a small, mostly Australian force held out under siege for 8 months in Tobruk, denying the Germans
8 months? Holy cow! They say Australians. Wow. Okay. Damn. They can fight.
A strategic port city and disrupting their supply line. Despite having some success in the Middle East, the British didn't seem like any real threat for now. Hey, Soviet Union, look out. With 3 million troops, Hitler launched the largest ground invasion in history.
3 million? Did I hear that right? 3 million troops. What the? 3.5 million actually? Holy shit.
Stalin was far from ready. Both Churchill and Roosevelt had warned him of an impending attack, but he dug his head in the sand and the Soviets didn't stand a chance. Germany made staggering progress, with huge encircling movements capturing mind-boggling numbers of Russian troops. 250,000 at Bialystok, Minsk, 300,000 at Smolensk, nearly 700,000 at Kiev, and again at Vyazma and Bryansk. Leningrad was put under a siege that would last an insufferable 4 years. The invasion of Russia had been Hitler's main ideological goal from the beginning, and his hatred for the ethnic peoples there was now unleashed in all its fury. The Eastern Front of the Second World War was brutal for all that endured it. The Germans were now inside of Moscow, and that's it. It's all over. But then it happened. It got cold. Stupid cold. Hitler had hoped.
This happens anytime, literally anytime somebody tries to invade Russia. The winter comes and they get fucked. Like every time. Literally every time.
The Soviets would give up before winter, but they kept fighting. His commanders came to him and said, "Can we please dig in for the winter and wait until spring?" "No. Keep going." "But oil is literally freezing inside our vehicles." "That's fine. Keep going." "We're having to leave the corpses of our frozen horses by the side of the road so we can still find our way in the snowdrift."
God, that's brutal.
Perfectly normal. Keep going. Hitler hadn't given his millions of men winter clothing and supplies because he thought he really should have won by now.
It was the coldest recorded winter at the time or something like. Oh, so it was like super winter. It was like the great northern winter of worst winters.
And Stalin called in troops from the Siberian front, specially trained to fight in the extreme cold, and the Germans were no match. They were now being pushed back. They had no choice but to dig in and wait for winter to end. Germany's victories were staggering, and Japan was eager not to miss the victory bus. Their war in China had come to a standstill, but they wanted to keep expanding their sphere of influence and getting those sweet, sweet raw materials. They began making plans to expand southward, but there was a problem. Southeast Asia was heavily colonized by America and Great Britain. It was also full of ocean. Ocean meant naval combat, and there was no way the Japanese Navy could stand up to the US and the UK. So they thought, wouldn't it be nice if we could destroy their navies before we begin our conquest? And so it was. On December 7th, 1941, the Japanese launched a surprise air raid on the US Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor and inflicted a huge amount of damage. They also attacked British colonies in Southeast Asia.
I'm sure he's gonna go over this in the video, but didn't like the attack on Pearl Harbor like not go according to plan? Like it didn't go well, so they kind of fucked up? Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Like they were gonna like completely devastate them, but they only like slightly did, and then that didn't really work how they wanted it to work. Most of the ships weren't there. It went well with the carrier. Oh, right, like they wanted to take out more aircraft carriers, but they weren't there. So they attacked when the aircraft carriers weren't there.
Roosevelt had no choice but to declare war on Japan, and so did Churchill. Hitler then declared war on America, even though he totally didn't have to. The attack on Pearl Harbor seemed like a big Japanese victory, but they didn't attack any of the naval repair yards, fuel storage tanks, or the submarine base, meaning the Pacific Fleet would be up and running again pretty soon. In the meantime, though, the Japanese were able to begin their conquest. They took Guam, the Gilbert Islands, Wake Island, Hong Kong, and the Philippines. They forced Thailand to join them so they could march their troops through.
Oh wait, I actually didn't know they took all of this. Holy.
Malaya. They swept through Singapore, North Borneo, the East Indies, New Guinea, the Solomons, and they were now threatening northern Australia and the borders of India.
They got all the way to Australia? Holy! Oh my god! What? I didn't know they made it almost to Australia. We really didn't talk. I don't remember ever talking about this part of the war in school in Canada. Similar to Germany with how they were doing lightning strikes. Wow.
India. Japan's victory had been as staggering as the Germans, and it reinforced the Japanese idea that this was a divine war which they were destined to win. But their victories had been based on speed, not power, and power would eventually catch up with them. For now, though, in all occupied nations, the people suffered. Persecution, forced labor, harsh punishments for any who spoke out against their occupiers. In Europe, the Nazis were rounding up ethnic minorities and other unwanted groups and individuals. In particular, millions of Jewish people would suffer through the terrible events of the Holocaust. Brave resistance movements rose up in defiance of their invaders, while the people held out for hope. And hope was coming. Winter was over, and Hitler could continue his push eastward. But this time, he switched up his strategy.
Man, I wonder how many troops they lost through the winter. I wonder what their casualties were.
He wanted to focus on the south. His plan was to cut off the Russian armies in the Caucasus, an area full of oil, and then invade the Caucasus and take all the oil. His forces moved across the north with ease, and Hitler got cocky. He rerouted the 4th Panzer Army south early, leaving the 6th Army to complete the encircling movement alone. To do so, the 6th Army had to reach and take the key Soviet city of Stalingrad. The Russians defended it fiercely, and Stalingrad saw some of the harshest fighting of the entire war. The Soviets held up the German advance for 5 months as they battled in the war-torn city, which bought them valuable time. When the Germans had first launched their invasion a year earlier, the Soviets had moved their factories to the east. Those factories had been building a butt-ton of tanks and aircraft and getting the Soviet army up to scratch. Now, it was ready. Stalin gathered his new and improved forces around the city.
Enemy at the gates, yeah. I think that's it, yeah. You can't just do that, move your factories. When he says move your factories, do you think, did he like actually build new factories? Or did they just like repurpose old factories again? They took them apart and actually rebuilt them? What? Whoa! During the winter? Damn, okay. They moved the stuff inside the factories. They just they moved all machinery into Siberia in winter.
And in an attack that resembled Hitler's own encirclement tactics, they began surrounding the 6th Army. Hitler's commanders came to him and said, "Hey, maybe we should retreat." But Hitler said, "No, you stay." The entire 6th Army was trapped and had to surrender. With complete air superiority, the Soviets started pushing westward. For Stalin, it was a resounding victory. For Hitler, an absolute catastrophe. Things also weren't looking too good for Hitler elsewhere. With America now in the war, Allied bombing over German cities reached devastating levels. In Africa, the British had pushed Rommel back again. Then they were pushed back again, and finally, after a decisive battle at El Alamein, and with American and British troops arriving in the west, the Germans and Italians were squeezed out of Africa. Japan was also already seeing its rapid success being turned around. They attempted to take the island of Midway, but the US Navy was ready for the attack, and they sank Japan's carrier. Actually, they sank a lot of them. It was a battle from which the
4 aircraft carriers! Holy damn, okay. That's very, very crippling to them.
Japanese Navy would never recover. British, Indian, and Chinese troops held the line in the harsh jungle terrain of Burma, and the Japanese suffered losses in the Solomon Islands and New Guinea. They began to realize they were not invincible. With the Axis out of Africa, the Allies had to decide their next move. Churchill still wanted to attack from the south, while the
Stalingrad lasted 2 weeks. Germans had about 30,000 casualties. USSR remains unknown. From 2 weeks? Wow. Midway was the turning point for Japan. Yeah. I mean, how do you recover from losing 4 aircraft carriers in one instance? That's...
Americans preferred a full sea invasion in northern France. All right, said the Americans, we'll do it your way. Allied forces successfully landed in Sicily and began moving north. They also carried out bombing raids over Rome. The thing was, many of the people in Sicily had relatives living in America, and they greeted the American troops quite warmly. With the war reaching home territory, most Italians just weren't that into it, and Mussolini was suddenly very unpopular. He was voted out by his own fascist Grand Council and was toppled from power. Italy immediately began negotiations for surrender. Hitler wasn't surprised and had already sent reinforcements southward. In an operation he ironically called...
So when the war started turning and suddenly it was coming to Italy, they were like, wait, hold on a second. Actually, we don't want to do this anymore. We're out. I'm out. I don't like how close it is. I'm out. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Classic Italy switching teams. War was great until you get directly involved. Yeah. It's like, wait, it's at our house? Hold on. Wait, they're at our door? What?
Operation Axis, German troops quickly disarmed Italian troops in the north. The Allies continued fighting the Germans up through Italy, but then winter set in, meaning mud, and everything slowed to a halt. All right, said the Americans, let's do it our way as well. Germany had made itself a lot of enemies, and millions of Allied troops...
Whoa! The Italian civilians never really wanted war anyways. I mean, didn't they... I mean, I guess opinions can change, but didn't they vote in Mussolini to do... Oh, but did Mussolini not think they were going to go to war or what? Vote is a strong word. Oh, right, it was a coup. Right, it was a coup. I forgot it was a coup. But he had like a lot of people around him that supported him. I guess that doesn't mean it was most of Italy though. Mussolini wanted to conquer like Greece and Yugoslavia, not go to war with literally the whole world. I see.
Had been gathering in England as factories worked around the clock producing the war material needed for a super crazy massive, the likes of which the world has never seen before, invasion of Europe. The Germans knew an Allied invasion would come, but they didn't know where it would land. Thanks to Allied deception tactics, they thought there was a pretty good chance it would come at Calais, but the Allies were really going to land in Normandy because it was less fortified and the beaches were nicer. Under the careful planning of General Dwight D. Eisenhower, the invasion that had been long in the making was just about ready to go. Just one thing was preventing the launch: the British weather. For a short while, everyone sat around waiting.
Of course, delayed by the horrible, rainy, overcast, awful British weather. Super depressing, raining every single day weather. It's always the weather.
For a decent day, and then it came. On the night of June 5th, over 1,000 bombers took off and raided coastline defenses, while paratroopers were dropped inland in a bit of a chaotic operation, tasked with sabotaging defenses and capturing key bridges to stop any German reinforcements from reaching the beaches. Early the next morning, the barrage came, as Allied ships fired a huge number of shells at the German fortifications, and then the landings. The Americans at Utah and Omaha, the British at Golden Sword, and the Canadians at Juneau.
This is what we did, baby! We did Juneau Beach! We did it! Canada! I'm sorry, I have to say it. I'm Canadian, and Sim personally fought at Juneau Beach. This is like the one thing we're known for, baby, okay? Juneau Beach. We took it, and we were fought like demons, I've heard. Or so they say.
It was a tremendous struggle with a great loss of life, particularly at Omaha, but the Allied troops captured the beaches and the landings were a success. Then they began their movements inland. They took the port of Cherbourg and the city of Caen. The Americans moved south to capture Brittany. Then, in a massive disaster for the Germans, British and Canadian troops from the north and Americans from the south trapped the German 7th Army in a near wipeout encircling movement. In August, Allied troops landed in the south of France to little resistance. On one beach, all they found was a Frenchman handing out champagne.
I mean, I guess the south of France, they were basically just biding their time, like being like, here's some cheese, we got baguette, some champagne. Welcome to southern France. Thank you for arriving. True story. That's nuts.
France was liberated, and the Germans were pushed out of France as the Allies entered Belgium. In the Far East, the Allies started to push the Japanese out of Burma, as the Americans launched a two-pronged offensive in the Pacific. In the south, General MacArthur led the push to liberate the Philippines, while General Nimitz oversaw the brutal island-hopping campaign. American forces had to make hard-fought landing after hard-fought landing on fiercely defended small islands as they moved steadily towards the Japanese mainland. The Japanese believed that the greatest thing a person could do was to die in battle, and the most dishonorable act was to surrender. As a result, they fought ferociously to the very end, and the closer the Americans got to the mainland, the more ferocious the resistance became. In February 1945, the Americans captured the island of Iwo Jima, and an intense firebombing campaign of Japan's wooden cities began. The Allies suffered some setbacks trying to liberate the Netherlands, but they were making progress and were now threatening the industrial heartland of Germany.
Okay.
Hitler's health, both mentally and physically.
When did Canada help the Netherlands? Is this when Canada helped the Netherlands? Or so I'm told. I know something about the Tulip Treaty or something. Canadians are very popular in the Netherlands. We did stuff, good things to help. I think this is the time.
Was rapidly deteriorating. Things were looking bad.
Probably skipped over it. Hey, we were mentioned twice in this video, okay? That's pretty good.
And he was desperate. He said, "We need to turn this thing around, and I have just the trick. Remember a few years back when we blitzkrieged through the Ardennes and trapped the Allied forces in Belgium? Well, I'm going to do the exact same thing. Again." He gathered his forces and tried to pound them through the Ardennes. He used up the remainder of Germany's strength and resources, and he managed to create quite a nice bulge.
This is the Battle of the Bulge that you guys were talking about. Ah, okay. This was round 2, Electric Boogaloo. Okay.
Trapped some American forces in the Belgian town of Bastogne. The Germans sent the trapped Americans a message saying surrender or be annihilated. When it was read out to the commanding officer, he said, "They want to surrender? No, sir, they want us to surrender." Nuts! And that's what they sent off as their official reply. General Patton's
"You're nuts! We ain't surrendering. Nuts!"
Third Army then managed to break the siege from the southwest, and the Germans were pushed
Battle of the Bulge. Wow. It's a true story. Did they actually say nuts back? What?
Back. Hitler's last-ditch attempt had failed.
Yes? Oh, I thought he was joking. It's famous. Oh, and the Germans didn't get it. They're like, what? What does this mean? Huh? Is this in code? What? Nuts. These nuts?
Followed was a total collapse of the German forces. The Allies pushed into Germany from both sides. The Soviet Union took Warsaw and kept pushing to Berlin. In his bunker, Hitler realized all hope was lost. Berlin fell, and with it, Hitler's dreams of a great German empire. 2 of the Axis nations had been knocked out. 1 to go. The Americans began their assault on Okinawa, the last island before they would reach the Japanese mainland. The desperate Japanese fought hard, launching kamikaze attacks on the US ships. The citizens of Okinawa suffered through the terrible fighting, but in 2 months, the island was captured. The Allies now had to make a choice. Either continue the devastating struggle up the Japanese mainland, or they could try to coerce the Japanese into surrendering now. In July, the first
Because at this point, is it basically just America and Japan fighting? At this point in the war, it seems, because like in Europe, they're pretty much wrapping it up. Like, what are you gonna do now? We gotcha, kind of. I'm kind of surprised Japan didn't surrender when like Europe fell. Because what's the plan here? Just like, what is the master plan? Just fight off America forever? I guess. I don't remember about Japanese honor. Oh, right. It was like the Japanese culture to never surrender. So they just never considered surrendering because it was against their beliefs, I guess.
Successful atomic bomb tests took place in New Mexico, and the destructive weapon was ready for use. America and the UK were also seeing the Soviet Union not so much liberating as occupying its captured territories, and so they wanted to put on a show of force. On August 6th, the A-bomb fell on Hiroshima. Then, on the 9th, Nagasaki. The cities were reduced to rubble, and for the people living there, it was a terrible fate. But for the Allies, it achieved their main aim. In September, the Emperor announced Japan's surrender, saying the war situation has developed not necessarily to Japan's advantage. After 6 years, war was finally over.
I don't know if he covers this in the video. Did the people of America know about the bombings? Like, was that like heavily talked about or no? Oh yeah, they did. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if it was like a secret way to end the war or if they were like hyping it up. They celebrated it. Oh, what? Huh. It was a secret until it dropped. It was the display of power. Yeah, I mean, it ended the war, yeah, technically.
Over. The Allies occupied Japan for 8 years. The Emperor was allowed to keep his position, but General MacArthur made sure this picture was printed in the Japanese press to display to the Japanese people that their emperor was not the divine, powerful being they had believed.
What? What? Is it just to show that he's shorter than him? Is that the purpose of this picture, to make him look smaller compared to the American guy? Literally wanted to mock them. They believed he was a god. They needed to prove that he wasn't. The emperor wasn't. Oh, the Japanese emperor was never photographed or anything. Oh, interesting. Oh, okay.
Germany was divided between America, the UK, France, and the Soviet Union. In 1949, the Allied sectors were united into West Germany. The Second World War had been more terrible and destructive than the first. In its aftermath, 2 major superpowers with 2 very different ideologies had come out victorious, and the tension between the 2 of them would create a new kind of war. A very, very cold one. Wow, Churchill, that looks just like me.
Okay, that's basically the end of the war, and then we go into the Cold War, which was America and Russia's secret war, kind of. It wasn't really secret, but it was like, I say the secret war because it was like the spy war, basically, because they were trying to like get government state secrets to win the race to the moon and all that stuff, basically, right?
Me. And your app is doing really well. And this quesadilla you made is to die for.
Quesadilla?
How'd you learn to do all this stuff? I used the link in the description to get 2 months of Skillshare for just 99 cents. Wow, tell me more. Okay.
Skillshare
is an online learning community with more than 19,000 classes in design, business, technology, and more. Premium membership gives you unlimited access to high-quality classes taught by genuine experts.
I really like the, what's that? I'm trying to think of a show set in the Cold War. Oh, I was thinking of, what's it called now? No, it's not actually set in the Cold War. It just reminds me of the Cold War. That Star Wars show. Fuck, I sound so stupid. The Rogue One show, I just watched it. I can't think of the name. Andor, thank you. Andor gives me very Cold War vibes. How some of it is like portrayed, like with the, you know, the secret forces. I don't know. I really like. My favorite Cold War drama, Andor. I know it's not in the Cold War. I just gives the same like aesthetic as it. I don't know if there's an actual Cold War show, but I like the aesthetic of it, where it's all like, you know, double agents and like secret spies and things. Andor is closer to French resistance. I don't know. It's just like kind of like the secrecy of it all. I mean, you basically follow a spy, right? Andor would be like the resistance. Yes, I think it's well, Andor's a great show.
Working in their field, so you can improve your skills, unlock new opportunities, and do the work you love. If you want to learn how to create games, you can check out the courses on using Unity or creating vector art. There are courses for software development, music production, arts and crafts, or if you want to learn how to animate like I do, you can find loads of courses for beginning animation. And Skillshare won't take a heavy toll on your wallet compared to other learning platforms, with an annual subscription being under $10 a month. If you'd like to give it a try first, then I've got a deal just for Oversimplified viewers. The first 1,000 people to use this link, which can also be found in the description, will get their first 2 months of Skillshare for just 99 cents. That's right, just 1 cent short of $1.
This video
so
came
be sure
out 8
to
years
sign
ago.
up using the link in the description, improve your skills, and learn something new today.
8 years ago? Oh damn, it's an old video. Okay, only 8 years? I didn't realize it was that old. Well, there we go. I learned videos about World War II. I feel like that was the simplified version. A nice broad overview of all the things happening, kind of. I feel smarter now, Stim. I feel like I knew all of that already, for the most part. I did not realize how much Japan took over, though. I didn't realize it got all the way to Australia. Holy. I don't think we really learned about that in school. That kind of blows my mind that they took that much. Japan killed at least 20 million in China alone. What? Japan controlled a territory triple the size of Europe? What? I had no idea. How come no one talks about Japan's role in the war, really? Maybe just not in Canada, but like it's never really been talked about in my schooling, at least, compared to like the European part, which was the main part, I guess. Where I'm from, Japan is barely talked about. We only do the war declaration, Pearl Harbor, and their surrender. Yeah, same where I am. Japan haven't apologized for a bunch of the stuff they did. I live in Asia, and even the Western theater is more talked about, not gonna lie. Isn't like when they were talking about, what's it called at the end of the war, where they go to trial for like war crimes and things? What is that called? Does it have a name? And they like have to, is it the Nuremberg trials? War tribunal? Yeah. Didn't they like, Japan not have to take responsibility for things they did? Did they just bow out? Or is like, I don't know, I'm not an expert at all, but like everybody else basically was like, yeah, we did that was fucked up. But Japan got off pretty easy. Japan and Italy. I see. MacArthur convinced the US Senate that putting the emperor on trial would have been bad. Oh, I see. Japan was not a huge focus here in Germany. We did talk about it somewhat. Huh. Japan had a separate trial. Yeah, of course there's a ton of I'm sure there's a ton of misinformation in chat. It's a lot of opinions. I would have to watch like that's why I said I want to watch a documentary about Japan in the war, because I don't know much about it. We never really talked about it in school or learned about it, other than like, you know, the end of the war. But I didn't know they took so much. I had no idea that they got all the way to Australia.